for it.
The late 70s and early 80s, the boom years of the video game industry.
Thank you.
And my game system was the Magnavox Odyssey 2.
Yeah.
Sleek, stylish, futuristic, and totally underappreciated.
Oh, man.
Let's change that.
Do it,
I'll
Turkey.
dig through the Odyssey 2 library, introduce you to each game, offer a few of my own expanded memories of playing them both then and now. We'll see if those games hold up today.
Amazing.
I'm Earl Green, and this is Select Game. Welcome back to Select Game, the first edition of 2019. I'm Earl at logbook.com. It's good to be back. Kind of got a new thing going on. Been stepping up my game production-wise. Partially because since the beginning of 2019, this is kind of a big reason I've been absent from my own podcast. I've been the technical director for Mission Log Live, which is a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. And that's something that happens every Tuesday night on Facebook. And I kind of had to up my game because that was a gig that I took when the previous director kind of vanished off the face of the earth, leaving no notes, none of the graphics that he was using, all that sort of fun stuff. And so it's good to have a gig, and it's introduced me to some new software that has allowed me to bring some new tricks to the table for Select Game. So, for example, this whole show that I'm doing right now, I am doing live. I'm trying to do it with no edits, no cuts whatsoever. So, we'll see how that goes. We'll see if that's possible. You know, it's one thing for me to be pushing buttons for other people's podcasts, quite another for me to be pushing buttons and basically live directing a TV show that I'm in. I'm the only person who is in it. Now, for a variety of technical reasons, we are unfortunately limited to another what I call emulator episode. So I hope that doesn't turn too many people off. This time around, we are going to play some games that were released for the video packaging 7400 Plus in Europe. Now, if the Odyssey 3 had made it to market in the US, these would almost certainly have been the enhanced versions of the same games released to the American market. But as it is, they only made it to market in Europe. And that's something I can only do on an emulator because I don't have a Video Pack Plus handy. And so I figure if we're going to do an emulator episode, so to speak, we'll try to make a virtue of it and do something that I couldn't do without the emulator. As a bonus, one of the games that I will be playing in this installment of Select Game will be Flashpoint. Now, I realize I just played that one a couple of shows ago when I did the whole long story of the rise and fall of the Odyssey 3 and why it disappeared before it ever had a chance to make it to the store shelves in North America. I played Flashpoint in the last audio-only episode, which seems kind of tragic because it's a really neat game and perhaps the only example we really have of what a purely Odyssey 3 game would have been. So I'm going to circle back and play Flashpoint in this installment again. So, for those of you who have been listening for a long time, this is going to seem an awful lot like, I've heard this before, I've heard you play these games before. And that's going to be correct in virtually every instance because I have played the non-plus, I guess, versions of these games in the past. Only now you get to hear them in super slow, clunky emulation that doesn't quite get the sound right. So, yay. A little bit of viewer mail here. Jerry Lang asks, is there a list of which video pack cards do and do not work on the Odyssey 2? That's a really good question. I haven't found such a resource on the web, so maybe that's something that you and I, Select Game listeners, need to kind of crowdsource and start building on the Select Game site at thelogbook.com. me up with your anecdotal evidence of what doesn't work on which version of the system. And I want to hear this from both sides because I'm sure there are Odyssey 2 cartridges that do not work on the video pack and vice versa. And, I also want to hear this from the third side, which is the folks in Brazil, which games from North America and which games from Europe do not work on those systems, because the Brazilian Odyssey system was running its own variant of PAL. It was called PAL-M, and the reason Brazilian cartridges are prized by American collectors is because PAL-M is close enough to jazz for an NTSC console to display correctly. Kids these days with their Switches and their PS4s and their Xbox Ones and their HDMI connections, they have no idea all that they missed in the course of just trying to get some games to play. So this is what being an oldster from the age of RF modulators teaches you. It teaches you workarounds and technical specs and things like that. I have some more information here from Kevin Bunch, who's the same video game history researcher extraordinaire who pointed me toward a lot of the information that made the aforementioned Odyssey 3 episode such a wonderful piece of uncovered history. He is continuing to dig into the histories of numerous systems from the 1970s, and a lot of his work so far has been uncovering the surprisingly storied history of the RCA Studio 2. But whenever he comes across interesting tidbits of information related to the Odyssey and Odyssey 2, he lets me know. And that brings us to these wonderful tidbits from Merchandising Magazine. Now, this one is from June 1979, and you see here that, we have Take the Money and Run, Computer Intro, and Orbiting Math Game. Now, based on the game mechanics, I think this almost certainly has to be I've Got Your Number, the Orbiting Math Game does. And Electronic Battle Charge, I don't know about that one. Could that be War of Nerves, perhaps? It's interesting. Now, from the October 79 issue of Merchandising Magazine, another blurb on what Magnavox is doing. And by the way, I'll include the full clippings on the site, on the show site at thelogbook.com/selectgame, because they do mention more than just what video game systems are upcoming. And there's a part of the June 79 clipping that's talking about this revolutionary idea of a video recorder with a timer that could record something for you, even if you weren't there to press record. I'll never catch on. So from the October 79 issue of Merchandising Magazine, I've Got Your Number now has its name, but we have, I like this one, Whirlybird and Orbits. Now, I'm thinking that almost certainly has to be Out of This World and Helicopter Rescue. And, I hate to say it, I almost like this collision of names better. Out of This World is so generic, and Helicopter Rescue couldn't possibly be more generic. So, there you go, the game titles that almost were from the 1970s. So, very special thanks to Kevin for that. I strongly urge you to check out the video of his presentation on the unexplored avenues of development that might have made its market if RCA hadn't canceled the Studio 2 console. This was done at MagFest, and they have put it on YouTube. I will include a link to that on the show page at thelogbook.com/selectgame as well. Let's see, what else do we have? I am way overdue, like 2 shows overdue, giving a shout out to Sean Hankey and everyone in the Facebook Magnavox Odyssey 2 owners group. There really hasn't been a central gathering place for Odyssey 2 and Video Pack fans on social media. You've been on Video Pack NL, or you've been elsewhere, and there hasn't really been a central clearinghouse. And that's kind of made my life a little bit difficult. there is a new Odyssey 2 homebrew. This one is from 2600 Connection, who also provided this video. The game is by Rafael Cardoso, and it's called Cold Case. Now, it looks kind of familiar for those of us who were also fans of a certain popular Atari game system out at around the same time as the Odyssey 2. Yeah, I'm not going to name names, but it's it's obviously an Odyssey 2 port of a game on that system. Yeah, the reason I'm not going to name names is because I have no wish to cause anyone any legal headaches. But it looks like a lot of fun. A little bit of Frogger, a little bit of Cubert, and a little bit of Igloo at the top there. So that's Cold Case. I will include a link to 2600 Connections ordering page for that on the Select Game Show page, and you can go get your very own copy of Cold Case. So, Plus Games. Well, before we get to Plus Games, let me explain, go into a little bit more depth about why we're doing another emulator episode. I ordered a couple of RF demodulators online for what seemed like a really good price. There's a reason for that. It's because they were actually demodulators and they were incorrectly labeled. They had to be returned. I got the money refunded, and then I got on eBay and just got myself a damn VCR with a dead tape mechanism that still passes signal for something like $12 shipped. Which really, I should have just done that in the first place, because that's the one thing that I know will work. That's what I get for trying to get really fancy. So I already have a video ingest gadget that depends on the incoming signal being baseband AV, RCA video, RCA stereo left and right, the drill. And so the VCR is the last piece of the bridge between using my original Odyssey 2 hardware and directly capturing that instead of firing out an emulator. The VCR has not yet arrived, though, hopefully soon. When it does, I'll probably be so excited I'll record the next episode on that very day, even if it lands tomorrow on my doorstep. I'm looking forward to being able to play games that look and sound the way they're supposed to, the way we remember them. I don't want to belittle the efforts of Dan Forrest or anyone who has worked on the various iterations of Odyssey 2 emulation down through the years. It's just, it kind of amazes me that sometimes my 64-bit Windows 10 computer has a hard time emulating Intel 8048 chip from the 70s. Or at least it seems to have a hard time. It could just be that the recording software, taking up a lot of memory is hogging RAM that the game should have available. I don't know. But I have tried to stick to using real hardware as much as possible, using emulation only where it's absolutely necessary. And so it kind of nags away at me that I'm on emulation show number 3 in a row at this point. With that in mind, if we are going to do emulation, let's do emulation to play something we couldn't normally play on basic Odyssey 2 hardware. So we're going to roll the clock back and play the plus versions of games that we've already covered. These games did make it to market in the UK for the Video Pack G7400 Plus. They probably would have been released in the US for the Odyssey 3 had the Odyssey 3 made it to market. So one of the things I really want to investigate here, and this is really something that's going to come into play more on the YouTube or the video version of the show rather than the audio version where you can't tell, is I want to know if the background graphics, if the enhanced graphics really do enhance the game in any meaningful way, or do they actually get in the way of gameplay? So we are going to start out with Pickaxe Pete, because why not? So I've got my emulated 7400 plus console here. Let's get ready for some Pickaxe Pete. Almost there. Amazing. And again, this is running on emulation, so there will be, it'll be stuttery, it'll be slow, and I really do apologize for that. I seriously contemplated sitting out doing the show until I had original hardware available, but I figured this is a good way to get something out there that we haven't really talked about before, and something that it really helps to be able to see if you're watching the video version, and if you're not, I'll still try to describe it for you. If we're stuck with emulation, let's make it count. So you can always make a game of Pickaxe Pete count. Now, what we see here is down the center of the screen, there is a kind of a green pattern of wooden planks. So I guess there's your mine shaft. Surrounding it on either sides to the edge of the screen is a repeating sort of tiled pattern of rocks and boulders and stones and things. So it really, whereas the whole thing about the Misty Mountain mines before was something that existed entirely in the documentation for the game, and on screen it might as well have been a monkey throwing barrels at you. Oops. This makes the setting a tangible thing. Whoa, I thought I was going to die there. I like it down in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. There is a break in the pattern of rocks, and there's a skeleton wearing what looks like a sombrero. He's the player before you who didn't make it. I'm not going all the way down there for another pickaxe, guys. Sorry. And I'm jumping very slowly. Hey, key. I would like that key. Yes. Alright. And I didn't die. Gotcha. I love that trick. So there are openings in the mine shaft surrounding each door. It really integrates well with the original unenhanced graphics. I really like this. On the one hand, the background pattern does kind of, it draws the eye away from where the eye needs to be, perhaps. But it really does set the the place, the setting, the mood for the, I don't want to say the story, because there is no story. It's Pickaxe Pete. He's trying to not die. Get up here to my safe spot. I'm playing level number 9, which is open shafts down each side of the screen, which results in some really crazy physics once you advance levels through the game and it starts deleting one segment of the levels. Got some crazy physics going on down at the bottom of the screen where it's deleted the first piece already. Can I get some boulders over here? I mean, even if it's the classic 1973 album, Boulders by Roy Wood. It's a really good album. So this is and at the top of the screen, there's kind of a neat repeating pattern. Once you're above the rocks and things up there, you have the outline of the mountains against the sky. It's pretty nice. The enhanced graphics chip that was used by the 4700 Plus and was going to be used by the Odyssey 3, which is basically the same hardware except for the NTSC video system, used a repeating tile system, which some of the programmers found a bit limiting and weren't that crazy about using, which I can totally get that, but it seems to have been made to work here. Now, what I would be interested in knowing is if the implementation, if the decisions about the background graphics and the implementation were these things that were done by the original programmers, or did someone at Philips do this after the fact? Narrow escape. Oh! So, an interesting look for Pickaxe Peep there, to be sure. I think that is certainly a successful enhancement, if you will. Now, the next game I'm going to play an enhanced version of is Cosmic Conflict, which is an old favorite of mine. And you have seen the enhanced version of this before because it's in the opening credits every week. It adds some planets, some very colorful planets, to the background scene. Okay, we kind of go into bullet time every time I fire. Oh, here comes one of the TIE fighters that, for legal reasons, must not be called TIE fighters. Bye. Also adds a control panel to the bottom of the screen where, there didn't need to be anything fancy down there. The original game just put your number of enemy ships remaining and your amount of energy remaining, which is factors into how many shots you can still fire, how many hits you can take from the TIE fighters, which for legal reasons must not be referred to as TIE fighters, which I keep blowing up, even though they aren't TIE fighters. But I blow them up like TIE fighters, because that's just how I roll. Jeez, there's an awful lot of them. But instead of just putting those number readouts in little rectangles, I thought I was going to buy the farm, or at least make a down payment there. It puts these in a sort of a little control panel setup at the bottom, which, has some little colorful buttons that have absolutely no bearing on the game, but they really do enhance kind of the sci-fi setting of it all. And there are also some stars that are part of the background image, which kind of meet up with the, whoa, a stealth ship. That's interesting. I don't recall seeing one of those before. It kind of tricks your mind into thinking maybe there's a sort of a parallax effect going on between the foreground and background stars. The background stars don't actually move at all. And so it's it's purely a trick of the mind, fooling the eye there. I have one ship left to blow up, and guess what, buddy? I think it's going to be you. Yes. Alright, our message from Star Command is not impeded by the background graphics. Message from Star Command. Congratulations. You are promoted to Commodore. Oh, great, so I get a free coupon for a VIC-20 after winning this game, right? No? Okay. That's Cosmic Conflict. That's the plus version of it. Again, kind of 2 for 2 here. That's a nice enhancement. Now let's let's talk about the next game in the lineup, because it underwent not just a graphical change, but a total change of title before it was released. This was released only as a Plus game in Europe. And what we knew as Attack of the Time Lord became Terrahawks. It suddenly became licensed to the last of the great Jerry Anderson Super Marionation show. Well, no, this wasn't Super Marionation, was it? We'll just keep watching the credits here, because I think it's Super Macromation or something. And Hudson Color. It's so basically Terrahawks was your very typical Jerry Anderson puppet show. It's very Space 1999-esque hardware. You have your cast of characters. You have the good guys, you have the bad guys, and never the twain shall meet except in battle. And of course, Zeroids, because you always have to have Zeroids. And Dr. Neinstein. Terrahawks, I don't think this was, yeah, Super Macromation. There we go. There we go. And Hudson Color. What the heck is Hudson Color? You know, it's kind of interesting. If the graphic style of that show open looked familiar to you, it should, because, and I went and looked this up because it certainly brought this to my mind, and I went and looked it up on IMDb. The done-by-hand cell animation for the Terrahawks Open was done by Kevin John Davies, who also did the same function at Rod Lord Animation Studios for the BBC's 1981 TV adaptation of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I think what people really remember about the TV version of that, the attempt to adapt that to TV, is these graphics. And so looking at the Terrahawks Open, I thought, that looks very Hitchhikery, and I wasn't wrong. So there you go. The Terrahawks backstory there. It's basically a Jerry Anderson space adventure series. It's really, in a lot of ways, plot-wise, as if you care, as if this has any bearing on the game. Terrahawks reads a lot like UFO, except, not trying to be quite so gritty and grown up. So, that, now that you know what Terrahawks the game is, let's, or now you know what Terrahawks the show is, let's play Terrahawks the game, and get it loaded up here. Nothing about the gameplay has changed, except I'm guessing that we are now dealing with Zelda instead of Spyros the Deathless, Zelda being the bad guy. No, goodbye. Sorry, I was just going to play your game. Okay. Oh, he's still going to shoot at me, or she. What Terrahawks brings to the table in terms of graphic enhancement for Attack of the Time Lords is it has the Earth as the backdrop, kind of at the ground level. So you're defending the Earth. But curiously, I really wonder where, how, and why this decision was made. It has the moon in the background behind the Earth, but it's like a picture of the moon with one of these old-timey man-in-the-moon faces on it. which has, has no bearing on Terrahawks the show. It's just somebody thought this was, a good thing to put in the background graphics for the game. Now, there is some green on the Earth, and the player's cannon is a lighter shade of green. And again, I really apologize for the stuttery, slow emulation. So there might be some potential for visual confusion. And there's also these asterisk-like things floating in space. There's two of them. They're both red. That if this was the first time you would play this, you might be wondering, okay, are those things that are going to fire at me? And no, they're just part of the background scenery. Oh, this is going painfully slowly. And now for those of you who know Attack of the Time Lord, we're on the second stage now and getting into the artillery that follows you around a little bit. Homes in on you, hits the ground, and explodes. If I make it to the next screen, I will be getting to the incoming fire that actually rolls across the ground trying to catch you, which I have to tell you is like one of my least favorite enemy tricks in the entire realm of home video games. Okay, here we go. I'm trying to defend my world, but at the same time I'm staring at the moon in the background and wondering, what the heck, dude? You have a face? So, here we go, Terrahawks for the 7400 plus. And don't worry, I'm going to play this out to the bitter end. Here, got your Hunter Seeker thing. Boy, almost got taken out by the one right behind it. Oh, what I would not give for this to be moving full speed. This is just painful. So of the plus games played so far, I'd have to say this one is the graphics enhancements don't detract from the game really, but they kind of take me right out of it. Like I'm sitting here looking at the moon the whole time and going, okay, what? Why? Despite the slowdown in the gameplay, I'm not playing a bad game of this. It's just that the moon is staring at me and making me self-conscious. Oh. We're actually going to the next level. Now we're playing with power. Okay. All of you salad plates come out of the space-time vortex there, so I can begin shooting at you. Oh yeah, the diamond-shaped ones. I hate those things. I'm obsessing over taking out the incoming fire, and I'm just going to have to get out of the way. I think next time I play emulation, I'm going to pre-record it, and I'm going to play it back fast. Now, the game sound and me will sound like we're in the Chipmunks, but the game might actually look somewhat normal. Wow, I've actually made it to stage 5. Ooh. This just makes me want to play the unenhanced game at full speed. So, it's, if this is the least successful of the enhanced games, it's really just because of some weird choices with the background graphics. I'm looking at you, Mr. Moon. Apologies to anyone actually named Mr. Moon who might be listening, because I can actually think of one. Don't. Oh. I think you just did. Okay, so really the Terrahawks thing, really the biggest mystery for me is, if you had a game that was already called Attack of the Time Lord, why not just license, I don't know, Doctor Who? And there is actually, I went and did a little bit of research on dates that things came out, and there is probably a very good reason that Attack of the Time Lord did not become the official first Doctor Who video game. It's because on the BBC Micro in the UK, on the BBC's home computer system, they already had the first Doctor Who video game in the world, the first official one, out in 1983, called Doctor Who: The First Adventure. And I don't know if they thought that Doctor Who was, too broad and deep for the small screen, as the novels released in the 90s used to say on the back cover blurbs, but I can see where the BBC would want to make sure that you were buying a BBC computer and BBC software to play a game based on arguably the BBC's biggest brand. I certainly, I say that, and yet they, what was the show that was, it was all around 85 or 86 at the same time that was beating Doctor Who in the ring? It was just like Basil the Rat or something. There was a Commodore 64 game based on that, so, it's not as if the BBC didn't spread its licenses around, but if you wanted to play the first Doctor Who video game, you're going to have to play it on the BBC Micro and not on the video pack. Which is sad, because I think it's much easier to retrofit Attack of the Time Lord into Doctor Who mythology than to suddenly say, oh, it's a Terrahawks game. Fooled you, huh? Yeah, I mean, Attack of the Time Lord has as much to do with Terrahawks as P.T. Barnum's Acrobats has to do with Barnum and Bailey Circus. Yeah, there is no connection. They just licensed the name. I like this. It's the Doctor has 14 regenerations in this game. These guys knew the future. You don't tell me that they didn't. So, all right. One last game to play. And it's not so much an enhanced game as a game that lived entirely within the enhanced graphics set of the Odyssey 3. This was Rex Battenberg's Flashpoint. This would have been a 2-joystick game, probably would have... Now, I believe the Odyssey 3 system design had joystick holders toward the back of the console. And so you might have been able to do it there and have that hold the joystick steady. This is one case where I'm glad for emulation. So obviously this is nothing like an Odyssey 2 game. I think the graphics are obviously, even if they're still primitive by modern standards, they are operating on a much finer grain. So it's a bit like Robotron. You're trying to take stuff out with one joystick to control your firing direction, the other to control your movement. And you're trying to defend the green area in the middle. You get a bonus for every tile of the green space in the middle at the end of the round. Yeah, a typical game for the American market. You're not trying to defend people, but by God, these zombies are doing a number on our property values, and something's got to give. So, takes its sweet time tabulating the bonus for the preserved tiles of the game. Which is okay. It lets you kind of rest your wrists in between rounds. Alright, so, oh wow, that's pretty much that whole corner of the screen. Enter Flashpoint to protect the city. Only one can rule the night, and it's probably not me. Ah, I'm doing this wrong. I'm losing a lot of bonus space. Oh, this is going badly. Too much talking, not enough playing. But here's the thing. Oh, did you see that? You have multiple lives in this game. It's definitely not an Odyssey 2 game. Odyssey 2 games are like real life. You get one chance, you screw it up, you're done. So I have 2 of these vehicles left. Looks kind of like Kit from Knight Rider, with the, sort of the Cylon red eye going back and forth. I didn't do badly, but boy, I could have handled that level a lot better. Zombies are unforgiving. And so I'm going to go find more of them and kill them. Oops. I would love to have one of the real Odyssey 3 prototype consoles and play this with the actual intended controls instead of, the numpad and the arrow cluster on my PC. Still, it's funny. This is undoubtedly a more evolved processor than the 8048, and yet it seems that my computer is having less of a hard time running it, because this is closer to the real speed that I would expect this game to be cranking away at. Alright. Let's go get some more zombies. And shoot at them. Yeah, the less of them there are, the faster they move. Typical. It's just my luck. The fewer of them, I mean. Oh, I've gotten some bonus vehicles. Yeah, I seem to remember this happened when I was playing it in one of last year's shows where we were talking Odyssey 3, where there was a red flash or something that I didn't know what bearing it had on the game. It turned out that was me receiving an extra life when my score climbed beyond a certain threshold. And I just didn't know how to handle that because Odyssey 2 games don't give you extra lives, ever. Oh wait, they're back over there in that corner. The zombie scourge is spreading. I like that you can park between. Ah! Okay. At this point, I've left my the safe square in the middle. Okay, I'm not even worried about the bonus this round. I'm just trying to not die. And I'm failing. Oh, hey, y'all remember me? I'm over here now. Eat white hot electric death. Thank you. Okay, almost up to 50,000 points. The bonus tabulation is not going to be kind to me here because but I still got an extra vehicle, it looks like. Yeah, I abandoned defending the home square. Never mind the green stuff. I am just trying to get out of here. You pesky zombies. Yeah, come get it. Come get it. Whew. It's not pretty, but it works. Now, how great would it have been if the little thing going through and tabulating your squares, what if it had been Casey Munchkin? Why do I have to think about these things afterward? It'd be like the Odyssey 2 cinematic universe. Oh, I have a feeling I'm going to die a bunch here. A lot. Very soon. Oh, they've almost got me cornered. You can fire diagonals, and I had been forgetting that to my detriment. Alright. That's it. Y'all just come march to your death. Bye. Anyway. Flashpoint. I think that's a good taster of the game without carrying on endlessly, because we are now well past the 45-minute mark. That's always entertaining. So there you go. The Odyssey 2 games that were enhanced into Odyssey 3 or G7400 Plus games. The Video Pack Plus console. That's right. we may circle back and do some more of these at a later date. And also, there's kind of a cottage industry among the homebrew programmers of going back and enhancing original Video Pack and Odyssey 2 games that did not receive the enhanced treatment from Philips. I know there's a fan-made enhancement for Casey Munchkin, and probably a bunch of other games too. So it's just an interesting thing that we never got to see in the North American market. Would it have been enough to save the Odyssey brand and keep it around long enough to get into things like the canceled, Odyssey 4 console that never made it past the planning stages? That I can't tell you, but it's just an interesting side note in history, kind of seeing how these things played out in Europe, but not in the States. We'll be back with more Select Game, hopefully as soon as next month, hopefully on the real machine, because I've got shows outlined that depend on me being able to use the original hardware, including a whole episode about the one third-party controller that was ever made for the Odyssey 2. But we'll talk about that later.